All right, I'm going to title this one today Smarter Phones, Dumber Kids. It's crazy. It's crazy. I had a slew of experiences this weekend with young people, which led me to feel like, man, I don't know about the future. I better keep fighting for my life to take care of myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on all young people. And I'm not necessarily picking on a generation, so to speak, but I grew up with older people that weren't scared, or I grew up with generations above me that weren't scared to tell you that you were wrong, use some common sense, and what were you thinking? And it wasn't to be harsh or brutal on us. It was to not allow us to settle for being less than. That's what it was about. It was about making you better. It was about making you stronger. It was about making you recognize that, hey, you got to think, you got to use your head. You got to critically think about some things. You got to think your way out of this. You know, they didn't want us to resort to being brutal or heathen or anything like that. They didn't want us to think low of ourselves. So a lot of times you had older people that would put you in check about things. What is wrong with you? Use some common sense. Or they tell you like, that was just dumb. You're dumber than you look. You know, they would tell you. And as a kid, we didn't run off crying. Maybe some of us did. I don't know. I'm just speaking from what I lived. But we didn't run off boohooing and crying. We thought about some things. Maybe I should do it that way. Or I'm gonna look at it. Yeah, all right. Well, you just did it. You did as they said. And you learned later with age and time that either they were right or wrong, but either way, you learned. But I had experiences this weekend, just simple communication in stores and just simple questions and simple things like direction. I'm noticing kids, when I say kids, I mean, teenage or in that 20, 1 to 23, 24 era. It's like just, and you ask a question and you can just see this blankness and it's like, and it's, and not speaking for all young people, but if you frequent, having a problem today. If you go to many stores, you're getting the same result with a generation of people. It's almost like, something's not right here. Something's going on. Something's not clicking. Something's not adding up here. So I think it started when certain things got taken out of schools. I think it started when parents became distracted for things in the world and stopped living for their kids. Don't get me wrong. I mean, your kids need to be kids. They need to enjoy things in life. And as parents, you need to live life too, because, it brings a piece of balance. Your kids need to make mistakes and learn and fall and get up, and that's in the teenage years and in the adult years. They need to learn things because that's what's going to build them for life. But I think when you have parents that are so distracted and with the outside world, and then you have an education system that's just, basically in the toilet in a lot of places, you have these kids that don't know how to take initiative, that don't know how to speak up for themselves, that don't know how to handle the smallest things without calling for help or without saying, they don't know how to figure things out. And the reason I say it started at school, because school took a lot of things out over time that helped build their critical thinking. School doesn't teach them life anymore. School teaches them a curriculum, as if you teach a pet. to follow a household curriculum. I wake you up, I take you for a walk because I know you have to use the bathroom. I bring you back in, I feed you, sit over there. If a noise happens, I expect you to bark. I expect you to know when something's moving around the perimeter of the house. But other than that, I control every movement and every faction of your life and existence. But you right there. So with the educational system, they took out things years ago, like art and music and PE in some places. Things that keep the mind stimulated, keep the body wanting to be active. And I mean, you don't have to believe me. You can look around and see it, and we're moving upon a time in the world where kids are going to need to have critical thinking. They're going to need to know how to have initiative. They're going to need to know how to have a character that's going to get them to stand out above the rest. Because if you walk into a room in an interview and I have 50 people that were before you and you all went to prestigious colleges or schools, you all have good grades, everybody's at a 90 to 98, 99 percentile, what's going to make me remember you? What's going to have you stand out above the rest? And a lot of times it's the things that you're raised with that helps you get over that hump. It's the walking in the room and saying, "Good morning, sir, how are you?" Or "Good morning, ma'am, how are you?" It's the saying, "Excuse me," or it's the saying, "Can you rephrase that question for me?" Or "Can you explain to me what you're requiring of me to tell you?" And those things are things that are family in the home, things that are seen in the community outside, things that are seen in the nation around the world. So if everybody's neglecting putting into these beautiful beings that we brought to the earth, what's going to happen for the future? Because we all know you can say what you want, you can judge all you want, but we all know I'll say 38, I even go down to 37. I give it 37. 37 and up, we all know somebody told us something to make us be wise about certain things today. If you alive and you living in this time, somebody put them common sense glasses on you upside your head to let you know how to pay attention and see things, because you probably looking at these kids saying the same thing. And I have 2 high schoolers, and I go and I sit and I listen. When I pick my daughter up, I see how things are. I see kids literally curse right in front of adults. Adults don't say anything. They don't say anything. When they buy my car cursing, I always say, hey, language. And they tighten up. We got to remember, when we were younger, people didn't let us get away with things that they saw us doing wrong, which led us to tighten up. A lot of kids, it led us to do it when they weren't looking, or led us to, but we knew to respect those adults when they were around. We knew that we had to take care of things when those adults were around. And we wanted to impress adults and show them that we could be more grown and more mature, because we wanted to show them that we were ready to take on things in the world, like working or being at home by ourselves. These kids don't show that initiative. They really don't. I mean, when you ask a kid where is something at, and they're verbally telling you to go straight and left, but they're pointing right. Or when you ask a kid, which way am I supposed to turn? And they say, I can't see hand gestures if I'm driving. I can't, it's like, and when you come into work and you know that you're the only one at work to do a task, and that someone that usually helps you isn't there, and you wait till 10 minutes before it's time for your shift to end to do that task, causing an influx amongst probably 20 to 30 people from getting what your task provides. Or when someone asks you a question and you say, instead of saying, you know what, I don't know, let me find out, let me see if someone else knows, you send the person all every which way. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, I had a grandfather who used to tell me, whatever job you go into, try to learn each job, because you never know when you may have to help somebody out, and you never know when a person may need you to cover for them. He told me that. He told me that at 9 years old when I used to help him work. Learn everything. Go in the door, try to learn everything. Not to one up anybody, not to be a manager or anything like that. Just in case you got to back somebody up and the fellow person needs you. That's it. That's all. Just initiative. Initiative. My cousin and I, we saw it benefit us time and time again when we had jobs as teenagers. Just time and time again. You know, and when you're doing it with good intentions, even if it moves somebody else out, that person doesn't feel a certain way because they know that you had good intentions. You was trying to help. And a lot of times it helps later because you never know. The world's getting smaller and smaller, especially since social media has came about. You never know when you may say something or help someone or show good character or initiative that it may come back around and you run into me. And I say, hey, aren't you so-and-so's daughter? Aren't you so-and-so's son? Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Hey, you know what? They hiring over here. Or I got some work I could use some help with. You know, I saw how you did that over there. You know what? I think you'd be a better fit over here. I've done that before. I've gone out to a restaurant before and seen a young man in a restaurant has so much potential. It's like, dude, why are you doing this? You know what? You need to do this. And I go back to that restaurant. He's still there. And then one day I go back to the restaurant and he's gone. And then you know where he's at? I pull up in a bank to deposit checks. And he's a bank teller. He's in a shirt and tie now. He's not in the t-shirt and the apron taking orders, living off tips. He's at the bank now. And then I see him again at the bank. Then you know what happens? A year goes by, I don't see him no more. And then I'm in the mall, way on another side of town. And he's managing a store. And the store he's managing is one of his friend's stores. And he says, hey, we trying to take this thing to another city. Man, just one pebble of kindness and character and initiative that this young man used to take, taking orders, made me see something up to, hey, yo, bro, kid, you can't, man, this ain't you. You overly kind, you double checking this, you double checking that. Obviously somebody done raised you with some sense. That's what the world looks for. That'll get you in more doors than any degree. Don't believe me, but it will. Because in a world where you're competing against tons of degrees, tons of people with letters behind their name, tons of people who got family connections, tons of people, man, that'll make you get indoors, more doors than any. I'm telling you. So I started with titling this Smarter Phones, Dumber Kids. So we need to get back to smarter kids while using smartphones. That's the goal. You're walking around with a computer in your pocket. Ain't nothing you can't do. You know, I'm older, and a lot of us always say, man, if we had these phones back in the 90s, whoa, man, would have been a global phenomenon, would have took over the planet. Utilize your skills. Show some initiative. Show some good character. It matters. Guys can do up your hair and your lashes and makeup, and you can get the tightest fade, and you know, it ain't gonna matter. It ain't gonna matter if everybody doing the same thing. You could wear the latest, great. It's not gonna matter if everybody doing the same thing. I went on interviews as a teenager, and trust me, grades and all that doesn't matter. For certain jobs, yes. Don't get me wrong. You see, certain jobs, yes. You know, grades and your school and this and that matters. But we moving into a new cycle of life where, I mean, if everybody went to MIT and everybody goes to IIT and everybody goes to Harvard and everybody's good students, it's like, what's going to make people notice you? And same thing culturally in urban areas. If you all dress the same, look the same, wear your hair the same, who's going to notice you? Who's going to notice you? One more story. I love stories. And the stories, I want people to grab experiences from. That's what it's about. Go to pick up my daughter one day from school. I'm sitting outside waiting, watching all the kids come out, they're screaming and yelling, and, she's high school. I see a young man walk out. He had a t-shirt on. Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, Tupac was on his t-shirt. I was like, wow, that's a nice shirt. And I'm so captivated by the t-shirt. And then I look, and the kid is Hispanic. I'm like, wow. And when he got closer to my car, I said, yo, man, I said, I love that shirt, man. I love that shirt. He's like, thanks so much, sir. And I just said, man, out of all these kids coming out of here, I noticed him because of what he was wearing, but it made me think, who's at home? Where did this kid that's a teenager, was clearly like a freshman, find this shirt? Was it his mom? Was it his dad? Was it his grandparents? And what kid at that age will wear that shirt with them people on there if he haven't done some type of, or is aware of something of who those people are? It's crazy. And don't get me wrong, I know these kids wear a lot of clothes with 90s icons and movies and stuff on it that they have no knowledge of and probably haven't watched. Well, I know for a fact they haven't watched. But with that type of shirt, you just don't put that on as a kid if you're not aware somewhat of who those people are. He didn't research those people. Somebody done told him about those people. His grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, brother, somebody done put him on to who those three people are for a teenager to wear that shirt. And it was fresh and crispy. It wasn't old like it was his dad's shirt or something or his mom's shirt. It was fresh. So that means somebody around him is going to places where you can grab that, or taking him to places where you can grab that. So he stood out to me. Now that's to me. Now he could have stood out to a whole bunch of people, but to me he stood out. So that's what I'm saying. Not saying you gotta attach to that, but you gotta attach to something different. Gotta stand out above the rest. Because if everybody running touchdowns and slamming the ball and hitting the ball out the park, what's gonna make you different? It's gonna be speed. It's gonna be agility. It's gonna be skill. Is it gonna be character? Is it gonna be your will to win? Is it gonna be your will to, if you don't hit that home run, to try to get those bases? Is it gonna be your will if you miss that, if you break on a shot that you up there trying to rebound it? Is it gonna be your will when you fumble on the field or die for that, risking your limbs and getting hit in the head? Is it gonna be your will to learn something outside of the education that you're supposed to be getting at school? Read something, study something, listen to an audio book. Is it gonna be your will to say, hey, I want to be an artist in a world that, man, art may not even pay? Is it gonna be your will to follow your heart, your dreams, your ambitions, and know that it's gonna take work? It's gonna take work. Kids can't miss that. Young people can't miss that. And people in my generation, we can't get lazy. We can't miss that it's going to take work. It's going to take work. And I know we live in this time where, in the generation before, everybody wants to get their kids better than what they have, but this ain't it. This ain't it, man. They ain't better than what we had. They aren't better than what we had, because they living in a volatile time, and they living in a time where they have lack of love. And with lack of love, it leaves you want to deal with everything like a child. Bam, 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 boom, boom, boom. Stab, stab, stab. Hurt, hurt, hurt. Because you acting out of lack than, less than. Acting out of that. Lacking less. Love does a lot for kids. Attention does a lot for kids. And unfortunately, we're in a world where they've made us think that putting the kid on or telling the kid something is being too much. It's hostile. It's toxic. We live in a world where they've made it to where the kids think they're smarter than us because they have a phone, but they not. People who've lived long are always going to have more experience on certain things. Things that are created in your time, you may have more experience in because it was created in your time. It's just, Bill Gates, and it's a group of older people that made all this technology. And it's younger people that's putting something in the technology to move the apps and all that things of that nature. But there were older people that created these machines that are functioning in the world. So you can't get lost in that, because that's the thing. Things are flipped upside down now. So the kids are over the adults. They think that they're smarter and know everything. They don't need adults. But then when things fall down, they cry, and they do need adults. And if the world was left to them right now, teenage to 24, if the world's left to them right now, we ain't gonna make it. We ain't gonna make it. And we better hope the ones that are striving, doing things, and smart really got that tenacity, because each generation gets weaker. So it's like you got to go overtime. You got to work overtime. So and we got to get kids back to history. And it's boring. History is boring. I don't like reading. Okay, well, in the reality, March 9th just passed. Christopher Wallace, Notorious Big, a.k.a. Biggie, was 24 years old, traveling the world, doing music. Now, I know it's entertainment, yeah, and you have management teams and people that help, but still was a 24-year-old man that went after ambition at the end of the day. Tupac Shakur was 25 years old. 25 years old. And these two men were conquering the world. And if you look back at other artists, they were kids. They were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Some of them, by the time they got in their 20s, was in a stride already. But they were young. And they shaped a world that allowed, unfortunately, the music that's here today. They built the world. And the younger world don't want to respect the fact that if it wasn't for that, them molding and shaping and building the world, you wouldn't have a lane to go in. It'd always be somebody willing to corrupt you and make you sell your soul for some money, but it's like you wouldn't have a lane, you wouldn't have an option to choose. So it's like, it really don't matter. It's the initiative that the generation takes to want better. But the initiative got to come from them looking around and seeing that it's a problem. It's the thing. You got to look and see that it's a problem. If you can't recognize that it's a problem, then you're part of the problem. And you caught up within the rat race of the problem. And people of my generation, we gotta get back to we get into that era where we gotta put them on. We gotta throw them that wisdom. We can't just do this. Can't just do that. Because if they're doing wrong outside, it's only going to be a matter of time for they doing wrong inside. So when I travel, a lot of times, man, I speak to people. I speak to young people. I try to build a community wherever I go, because we got to take care of each other, and it ain't about color. Just try to build a community wherever I go. My neighbors speak. I don't have to know everything going on in their life. Good morning. How you doing? See them walk by with dogs. How you doing? I don't have to know what's going on in their house. I could care less. But if I see another man get up every day going to work to take care of his house, or I see a woman getting up every day going to work to take care of her house, I see the kids walking to school. Hey, it don't matter. We all on the same wavelength. We all care about our household and our families. We all trying to take care. We all trying to survive whatever's going on in the world. That's a neighbor. That's a community though. So gotta get back to initiative, because that initiative is gonna help these kids get over the hump. But they gotta know that there's something going on. And they not gonna know unless someone above them tells them, hey man, you need to be looking at that. You need to be looking at that. You need to look at that. You know, so when you look at things like the Black Panther Party, if you look at how young Bobby and Huey was, come on, man. And I ain't talking about setting up a social media group and, you know, discussing this and discussing that. That shit's over. The talking shit is over. That's the thing. It's been so much talking. Other people moving like ants under the ground doing stuff while everybody talking. Shit's over, man. But as people in my generation, we can judge them all we want. But at the end of the day, if we don't put them on and tell them things and try to build things within them, we leaving them to that. And that's the thing. People over us didn't leave us to that, because outside was aligned with inside. Couldn't do stuff in the house. Couldn't get away with doing stuff outside the house unless wasn't nobody there paying attention. That's what we got to get back to. If not, we're going to have more of this. And these kids are getting older. These teenagers that are coming out of schools, getting good grades because the school system is failing. You know, it's easy to do this watered down education. And they coming home, they not getting no love. They not getting nobody paying attention to them. You know, and kids think you hard on them if you paying attention. You know, it's like, no. You need chores. You need responsibilities. You need to know how to take care. You need to know how to clean. You need this. How you going to live on your own one day? How you going to live with a roommate? Your roommate gonna be calling home like, man, your kid, your daughter is so nasty, your son is so nasty, I can't handle it. You know, it's like, how you gonna live if you don't have these responsibilities? But those responsibilities come from the people above you. So if a kid is sitting and doing something wrong, we gotta look in the mirror and be like, yo, I didn't teach him to say excuse me when he stepped on somebody's shoe. Well, guess what? That other parent might not have done the same thing. They may have told their kid to knock your kid out. They may have told their kid if somebody step on your shoe, them up. They may have told your kid, man, don't let nobody, do this and do that, you know. And then what happens? Our kids killing each other. So gotta get back. Let's make smarter kids using smartphones. Smarter kids using smartphones. Peace. Fight for your life.